In fragmentary beings, she grew aware, a chaos of little sensibilities gathered round a small ego's pinpoint head. In it, a sentient creature found its poise. It moved and lived a breathing, thinking whole.
Yeah, it's fragmentary. That's the Indian English pronunciation. Now, British English, let's see what they say. Fragmentary. Fragmentary.
It's the same.
So you've got the British, you've got it correct because it doesn't beat so well that way.
In fragmentary beings, she grew aware.
In fragmentary being, she grew aware. So this is a difficult one because you are correct in the pronunciation, but the beat is a little different. It's just a little bit offset today. In fragmentary beings, she grew. No, that's only four beats.
In fragmentary. Fragmentary. It's also four.
Yeah,
Fragment beings, she grew aware.
and it's
It's,
supposed to be
it's coming
five.
to 10 beats.
It has to be
10, 10.
five. Has to be five.
So it's 11 in total, right? Should be 11 or 10 in total.
Well, you have to beat it as an I am, which is a short long. Da-dum, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. In fragmentary being, she grew aware.
Maybe beings should be beings. Beings. In
No, being.
fragment, in fragmentary beings, she grew aware. Then it comes to 11 counts. Beat.
It's an interesting dilemma here because fragmentary works perfectly, but it's not British English. So you've got the British English correct. We're going to have to
Yes.
stay with that. We have to stay with that.
Yes.
Okay. So she's growing aware of these little disconnected parts and this chaos of little sensibilities that's gathered around this small ego's pinpoint head. But it has found its poise in this sentient creature, this creature that is moving and living and is a breathing, thinking whole. So she's going very deep inside herself to see what is this creation all about, this sentience. So let's continue on now and see what she's going to find out.
On a dim ocean of subconscient life, a formless surface consciousness awoke. A stream of thoughts and feelings came and went. A foam of memories hardened and became a bright crust of habitual sense and thought, a seat of living personality and recurrent habits mimicked permanence.
So she is seeing that these things are this foam of memories, let's say, that we all have, and it becomes a kind of bright crust
Mm.
of our thought. And we all can go back there. We can go back 10 years, go back 20 years, and pick out something that's still there. It's a bright crust.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So all of this becomes a seed of living personality. That's what we are, a seed of living personality. And so therefore these recurrent habits mimicked permanence. Because I think, therefore I am, that idea. And So now we're going to find out what mind does and what matter does. Mind,
Mind nascent labored out a mutable form.
I think
It
it's
built
nascent.
nas- Mind nascent labored out a mutable form. It built a mobile house on shifting sands, a floating isle upon a bottomless sea.
So we see that mind is just coming into existence. That's basically the idea of nascence. So it's laboring out this mutable form, and it's even, this is incredible, two lines, built a mobile house on shifting sands. The house is mobile and the sands are shifting, and it's even a floating isle upon a bottomless sea. Incredible. Okay, let's carry on.
A conscious being was by this labor made.
Yeah,
It looked around.
hmm, let's do a little better on that line. A
A, con-
conscious being was by this labor made.
a conscious being was by this labor made.
Hmm.
It looked around it on its difficult field, in the green, wonderful, and perilous earth. It hoped in a brief body to survive, relying on matter's false eternity.
And in the Life Divine, Sri Aurobindo teaches us that matter is by no means fundamentally real. It is simply a structure of energy. And so that line, that definition really impacts on this line, relying on matter's false eternity.
Hmm.
Interesting. And that wonderful line, in the green, wonderful, and perilous earth. Oh, so this conscious being is made by this labor of the mind, the foam of memories, and it looked around itself on this difficult field, and it hoped in a brief body to survive. But it's hoping and relying on matter's false eternity. Incredible.
It felt a godhead in its fragile house. It saw blue heavens, dreamed immortality.
So there is a consciousness that is nascent in the process of birth, and it feels the Godhead within itself. I think we all have felt that in one way or another a number of times. And even we see blue heavens and we dream immortality. So now let's see where we're going.
A conscious soul in the inconscious world, hidden behind our thoughts and hopes and dreams. An indifferent master signing nature's acts leaves the vicegerent mind a seeming king.
Ah, excellent. Good reading there, by the way. So we see that this conscious soul, it is a conscious soul. We are conscious souls, but we're in the unconscious world. And therefore, everything is veiled, as Sri Aurobindo would say. So that soul in the unconscious world is hidden behind our thoughts and our hopes and our dreams. And so, therefore, there's this indifferent master signing nature's acts. And the master here is a capital M. So we have to know that Sri Aurobindo tells us that the master and mover of our works is the one, the universal and supreme. So that he's indifferent because he's not moved by our pain and our doubt and our ignorance. But he's signing nature's acts, And why? Because he's leaving the vicegerent mind, the seeming king. Now here, the vicegerent mind is a delegated mind. He's not at all a king. Therefore, he says it's a seeming king. Very important. So carry on.
In his floating house upon the sea of time, the regent sits at work and never rests. He is a puppet of the dance of time. He is driven by the hours, the moment's call compels him with the thronging of life's need and the babble of the voices of the world.
Babel.
Okay, babe. What does it mean? It's not babble.
Well, the Tower of Babel
Yes.
was built by these people who all spoke different languages, and so they couldn't communicate with each other. Now, Babel is two B's,
Yes.
Babble. This is
Yes.
Babel.
Babel.
I did talk with Amal uh, quite a lot about this. Now, Sri Aurobindo actually gives us some information. I'd like to read that to you.
Yes.
The legend of the Tower of Babel speaks of the diversity of tongues as a curse laid on the race. But whatever its disadvantages, and they tend more and more to be minimized by the growth of civilization and increasing intercourse, it has been rather a blessing than a curse, a gift to mankind rather than a disability laid upon it. The purposeless exaggeration of anything is always an evil, and an excessive pullulation of varying tongues that serve no purpose in the expression of a real diversity of spirit and culture is certainly a stumbling block rather than a help. But this excess, though it existed in the past, is hardly a possibility of the future.
Ah, interesting.
Yes, very interesting, because we see now that, in fact, he goes on a bit. He says, the tendency is rather in the opposite direction. In former times, diversity of language helped to create a barrier to knowledge and sympathy. It was often made the pretext even of an actual antipathy and tended to a too rigid division. The lack of sufficient interpenetration kept up both a passive want of understanding and a fruitful crop of active misunderstandings. But this was an inevitable evil of a particular stage of growth, an exaggeration of the necessity that then existed for the vigorous development of strongly individualized group souls in the human race. So we see that Hungarians had the feeling we are Hungarians,
Hmm.
we are Czechs, we
Hmm.
are et cetera, et cetera. And so they formed that group soul around their language. Therefore, it was a barrier to others because if you didn't know Hungarian,
Yeah.
how did you communicate? This is fantastic. Sri Aurobindo, he goes on with it, but I won't do the whole thing. It's in the human cycle. So he says that these disadvantages have not yet been abolished, but with closer intercourse and the growing desire of men and nations for the knowledge of each other's thought and spirit and personality, they have diminished and tend to diminish more and more. And there is no reason why, in the end, they should not become inoperative. So, in other words, there has to be a worldwide language eventually. And this is what Mother talked to Satprem about. And she makes a joke and she said, maybe something like an American English. And then she laughs about it. So obviously, English itself was is not something that Mother thought of because it's the English of the modern age that has grown so rapidly
Hmm.
in the field of science, in the field of the internet studies and all of these things, in the field of
Hmm.
space exploration. We have hundreds and hundreds of new words
Yes.
that wouldn't be there. So this is very important because in the end, they should not become inoperative. There's no reason why they should not. So I think we're going towards a universal language.
Hmm.
Only thing is we have to be careful about this universal brotherhood idea of the
Yes.
of the dark state. You see that
Yes.
entanglement there. Okay, let's read a little bit more.
This mind no silence knows, nor dreamless sleep. In the incessant circling of its steps, thoughts tread forever through the listening brain. It toils like a machine and cannot stop.
Yeah, I think there were two lines that I would suggest that we do differently. Um, First of all, this mind doesn't know any silence and it doesn't know any dreamless sleep. So, this mind no silence knows, nor dreamless sleep. In the incessant circling of its steps, thoughts tread forever through the listening brain. So, we have to connect those two very carefully because there's no comma after steps.
Hmm.
So, you want to try those four lines again?
This mind no silence knows, nor dreamless sleep.
Yeah, but I think it's this mind no silence knows, nor dreamless sleep. It doesn't know silence and it doesn't know dreamless sleep.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
This mind no silence knows, nor dreamless sleep.
yes.
In the incessant circling of its steps, thoughts tread forever through the listening brain. It toils like a machine and cannot stop.
Listening, listening. Thoughts tread forever through the listening brain.
Thoughts
Listening, there
tread,
is a manifest. Three beats in one. Thoughts
thoughts
tread.
tread forever through the listening brain.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. Okay.
yeah. Good. Three in one, manifest.
Three.
Da da
Okay.
da
Three.
da 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 da. Listening. Da 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 da.
Okay.
That's an anapest. We
I
have it
get.
we have it in music also
Yes. Okay.
in different terminology. But so in that um, it toils like a machine and cannot stop. And now what's going to happen?
Is it called a trill in music?
Um, Not exactly a trill, no, because a trill is a rapidity of vibration, but
Okay.
there can be different uh, gradations of trills.
Yes.
Sometimes you can have an older singer
Uh-huh.
who where the trill becomes a warble.
Okay.
This is the and you've heard those people before when they
Yeah.
should not be singing any longer. And my example is a very good one. so, 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 yeah. So let's go into the body's many-storied room.
Into the body's many storied rooms, endless crowd down the dream god's messages.
No, endless crowd down the dream god's messages. Endless crowd down the dream god's messages.
Endless crowd down the dream god's messages.
You see, That's poetry of such an elevation that Sri Aurobindo can use all these different devices to change that iambic pentameter just a little bit, but it still comes out somehow using these different things like the iams and different things. Deshpande knows poetic technique very well. I often wanted to study with him, but never got to do it. Okay, into the body's many-storied room, hyphenated, many-storied. So it's one word. It's a many-storied rooms. And these dream god messages crowd down. Very, very interesting. I think we have to read now because
Yes.
and you've got a lot to read. So we're going back to 477.
Yes. There's
Okay.
babble in the next line. All is 100-tone murmur and babble and stir.
Good for you. Good for you.
Um,
And Sri Aurobindo did that consciously.
yes. Mm.
In fragmentary.
In fragmentary okay. In fragmentary beings she grew aware, a chaos of little sensibilities gathered round a small ego's pinpoint head.
Yeah, but the okay, sorry, but the chaos of little sensibilities didn't gather round, but they were gathered round.
Gathered round
Yeah,
gathered
you see
round
the difference?
yes,
Okay.
gathered round a small ego's pinpoint head. In it a sentient creature found its poise. It moved and lived a breathing, thinking whole. On a dim ocean of subconscient life, a formless surface consciousness awoke. A stream of thoughts and feelings came and went. A foam of memories hardened and became a bright crust of habitual sense and thought. A seat of living personality and recurrent habits mimicked permanence. Mind nascent labored out a mutable form. It built a mobile house on shifting sands, a floating isle upon a bottomless sea. A conscious being was by this labor made. It looked around it on its difficult field, in the green, wonderful, and perilous earth. It hoped in a brief body to survive, relying on matter's false eternity. It felt a godhead in its fragile house. It saw blue heavens, dreamed immortality, a conscious soul in the inconscious world, hidden behind our thoughts and hopes and dreams, an indifferent master signing nature's acts, leaves the vicegerent mind a seeming king. In his floating house upon the sea of time, the regent sits at work and never rests. He is a puppet of the dance of time. He is driven by the hours, the moment's call compels him with the thronging of life's need and the babel of the voices of the world. This mind no silence knows, nor dreamless sleep. In the incessant circling of its steps, thoughts tread forever through the listening brain. It toils like a machine and cannot stop. Into the body's many storied rooms, endless crowd down the dream god's messages.
Only one thing I wanted to pick up: the regent. The regent is one who rules or governs in place of a king or a queen.
Okay.
So he's a regent who is
The-
also a puppet of the dance of time. See, he's not the leader. He sits at work, he
Is,
doesn't rest, but he's a
is,
puppet of the dance of time.
is this the mind? Yes, leaves the vice chair. Is he referring to the mind? The regent is the mind, right?
Yeah, because, yeah,
Yes, he is a puppet of the dance of time. Yes.
exactly right. Good.
Okay.
Well, we had some challenging things tonight, and I learned something, so good.
Yeah. All
Thank you
right. So
so
I'll
much.
see you next week. Yes. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Narad. Namaste. Be well.